remember, yeah, we discussed widenings on the highway on Main Street West.
So similarly to that, when they doubled the number in South Bend, did they do a similar thing up
Yes.
there?
There's highway improvements required, yeah.
Okay, and then further one, just 1, 2, 3 here. Then further to that, in the greater Grand Bend area there, through this process, was there a study of the around Grand Bend, you know, going to that idea, if you add too much, it's already crazy enough type of thing, or did we have any study of any sort? Or no?
There's been different
Talk.
smaller studies done about,
holistic.
yeah, it's been a matter of discussion, I think, for quite a number of years.
40
yeah.
years, probably.
Yeah.
It's always discussed, but there's always that mercantile aspect. We want people to come through the Tim Hortons or whatever.
That's
but that's part of it right there, right criteria for. No, that's very good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have to make sure there's no restrictions on the property, like easements or drains. We have to work around them. We have to conserve natural resources and look at flood control. There's always issues of building in the floodplain. We have to look at the adequacy of utilities, municipal services, school sites. We have to look at what's going to be dedicated to us for either park or road widening or stormwater management. We have to look at whether it optimizes the efficient use and conservation of energy. Okay, when council deals with the draft plan of subdivision and does all that considering, they can put conditions on their approvals, okay? And the conditions can be road widening, naming the streets, parkland. If the zone on the draft plan doesn't comply with the use proposed, rezoning, servicing, grading, subdivision agreement. Yes?
So that we're getting to that one, excuse me. The waste one, for an example, right now, you discussed with us with our condo ones and the latest 5 we've done in Grand Bend. But when with Blue Water, when we start having the tip-on containers, right, that will take it to a whole nother level, and that would be the point for future planning. We would say, okay, a normal unit would use 2 of those things, right? And we may require something at the road. Is that where you would put that?
You would have to.
Because you say you're making provisions for certain things, and waste is one of them. Right?
Yeah, and it's probably one of those things that we need to have a conversation about, maybe after we get the official plan done, as to how we're going to start dealing with waste when we get these bigger containers and how they're going to. We just need to think about it, right?
Communication between and amongst, because obviously within the conditions we can do that. We just have to know. We have to have the knowledge throughout our system so that we can actually plan.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and we can enter into subdivision agreements that make sure all the things that the approval is conditional on are done. In addition, the draft approval, of course, has a time frame. It has conditions. It has lapsing dates. The Planning Act allows you to extend those. It allows you to change conditions. It's all subject to a public process, but it allows that to happen. Okay.
So on that last one, so when we're doing the time frame and the conditions and whatever, that comes probably back through you, or is that a legal requirement that comes through the clerk?
No, it always comes back through.
It always comes through.
Yep. I keep track, the developer keeps track of when their approval's coming up, and it's brought back. I think, I'm just trying to think, Matt Johnstone, maybe you saw at the beginning of, Matt asked for an extension to his draft approval. That's the vice.
Through to Patty, when we're doing that, Patty, must there be public meetings if we are, say we're going to extend a draft plan for a subdivision, must there be a public meeting designated to hear that draft plan?
I don't believe an extension requires that. However, I will get back to you, but I don't believe so. It's just the initial approval. It's who you notify of the change and the extension. Usually the act only requires you notify anybody who asks for notification. Okay? We have to notify them of the change in condition or the change in the lapsing date and the development. Okay, so basically draft approval amounts to a commitment to go ahead with the subdivision once all the conditions of draft approval have been met. Lots can then be offered for sale after the draft approval is given, but they cannot be sold until the plan is registered, okay? So, once you have draft approval, you can sell lots, okay? Or you can offer lots. You have to have final approval to sell them, to convey that title away. Okay?
Could you say that one more time?
Yeah.
It's a little confusing to me. So draft
Draft approval allows you to offer lots for sale.
but no money at this point is being,
It's a conditional offer of purchase and sale.
So-
You cannot physically transfer the lot to the person's name until such time as the lot is
so
registered.
there's no deed, nothing at this
Can't be.
point, it's just, it's,
Nope.
no way,
There's
not
no,
until
there's
it's
no
registered.
conveyable property. It's never not been created.
Let's make him
Yep.
a little bit more aware of the reality though. The reality is, even though they may not have it approved, they will sell and they will take money. As we just had a
Deposits.
court case in Toronto on a condo about that same, you're quite aware of
Yeah.
that, Patty.
If that's
I'm not gonna
speculation.
say it doesn't happen, but
It
it's
does
legally,
happen.
you
That's
can't take
speculative.
title to it.
Right, see, they
So why would
do
you pay
take
for it?
money.
So they're allowed to speculate and buy future,
They don't
right, so that's speculation, but it isn't actually, until it's been registered,
It's not transferable.
non-transferable.
I'm thinking
No,
of the Toronto example too, and I'm just wondering if I put down $1,000 on a conditional offer of sale, which is really what it is until that plan is registered.
Right.
If I have to ask for an extension to that draft plan, must the people who put that money down or have conditional offers of sale, must they be notified?
Not under the planning act, no.
No,
That's a
basically-
legal agreement between the owner and the purchaser. It's not subject to planning act approval.
Yeah.
It's all speculation.
Okay? All right. Okay, this is the second last thing we're gonna deal with.
No.
Consents. Consents is the other way to create lots, and I think we already talked a little bit about it. If you're creating 2 or 3 lots, you can go through the consent process, which is done by the Committee of Adjustment. Okay? Basically, it's a very similar process. You make an application, we have a public meeting, it's approved subject to conditions. You have to satisfy those conditions before we will stamp your deed or create your lot. Okay?
Through you, Patty. Is this more like, a number of years ago, I know, in our subdivision in Richmond Park, there were 2 lots together with a lot of places. And they agreed to go under one roll number. So now, if they want their son or daughter to have the second lot, is this where this comes in?
Nope. It could be this, it could be something else. I could go to the next slide. Council also has the right, under the Planning Act, to deem lots that are in a registered plan of subdivision. Okay, so they've been through the approval process. The plan's registered. They have the right to deem those lots not to be lots in a plan of subdivision if the lot's been registered for 8 years. And I think you've seen a couple of those. The 2 lots in Arcona that we merged together. I call it merging. So you deem them not to be lots, they're no longer lots, so basically 2 lots can come together as one, okay? In a
Richmond
circumstance,
Park had a huge
yes.
lot up front.
there are some lots, in fact, Mr. Sutherland's lot was
Yeah.
the lot. Is that the one you're talking about? Mr. Sutherland had council deem his lots not to be lots. So his 3 lots he owned all became one under the Planning Act. So he had to come back through the consent process to recreate the lot that he conveyed. He ended up with 2 lots as opposed to 3, but he came back through the consent because he was deemed not, his lots merged altogether. Okay? The general rule is lots in a registered plan, whole lots, and lots created by consent never merge with anything else unless we do something. Consent lots are a lot harder to unconstruct than lots in a registered plan. Council doesn't have the right to deem a consent not to be a consent. There's no provision in the Act for that. What we have to do is go back and do a consent to alter the original severed parcel. So lots of times we'll take a 1-foot strip off the front, dedicated as public road. The lot is no longer the same lot and it can merge back into where it came from. If that's, most people don't want to do that, but there is the odd circumstance where, or they want to enlarge a lot and you can't add land onto a lot created by consent, it doesn't work. They don't merge together, so you have to unconstruct that lot to add land onto it. Okay? It's a bit of a nuance in the